Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Magic Mindfulness Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Hupp, and I'm super excited to have Jennifer Matthaei Cottrell here with me today. She is a yoga therapist and the owner and founder of LOTUSblossom, Lifestyle of the Unique Spirit. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Rachel.
So let me tell you a little bit about Jennifer and her story, and then we'll start to just kind of dive into it. So she, as a high school sophomore, began what would turn out to be a lifelong relationship with yoga. It started as a PE class, which was quite unusual in 1975, and then continued on and off through the next 30 years. In 2008, she decided to deepen her spiritual journey by taking a 200-hour certification program, during which she fell in love with the practice. She began teaching, studying meditation facilitation and Ayurvedic wellness counseling, and she achieved a 250-hour certification in each of those disciplines. And then, because of her love for yoga, she continued to pursue certifications for radiant child yoga and trauma-informed yoga. And so, as her spiritual practice continued to deepen, she decided to go for a 500-hour certification. And so now, after over 1,000 hours of training, she is a yoga therapist, which allows her to use all of these modalities to assist people to live their very best life. So powerful stuff. Yoga is so transformational, isn't it?
It definitely is. Definitely big changes in my life with it.
Yes, and that's how you and I originally connected. I started coming to your classes and I just loved them. And then through different people, I've connected with you through workshops. I've been to your retreats. We've co-hosted a retreat. So I don't know, tell us listeners a little bit about your journey.
Well, I think that the universe provides you what you need. And I was widowed in 2010. And at that point, I had, excuse me, done my 200-hour training. I was practicing, I was taking classes, and I was teaching a little bit. And then when my husband passed away, it was a real outlet for me to release anger, sorrow, grief, the whole nine yards. So I really dove deeper in. And when he passed away, I was in the middle of my Ayurveda training. And I took a moment and said, I just can't do this. I mean, I could barely leave the house, let alone go to classes. And I was like, you know what? He would want me to do this. I've got to finish. And, I think I had a class maybe 10 days after he passed away. And I showed up, not pretty, but I showed up. And it was just to be in that community made such a difference to me. I had support from all over the place, but my yoga community was just amazing. And so I just kept going with it. And, I met somebody else. I've remarried and live, a really blessed life here in Harrisonburg. And I teach regularly. I taught at the center for 10 years and then decided to kind of take a break from that. And I love subbing for Rachel at Bricks and Column. I teach online. And I just really, it's a major part of my life. And I should have double checked, about 80 days ago, I started a daily practice again. I had gotten away from it. I realized that it was something I needed. And, it might be 15 minutes. It's not like I get on my mat an hour every day. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. Sometimes it's a half hour. I try to do 15 minutes at the minimum. And I have to admit, I was on a beach trip and I probably did about 4 sun salutations a morning for 4 mornings. But other than that, it's been 15 to 60 minutes. And it's how I start my day. Not the very beginning of my day, but like my real physical day starts with my yoga practice. And I've been doing all kinds of fun challenges. I'm doing a Kali one right now, which Rachel and I were talking about it, and it's fascinating. If you don't know anything about Kali, look up Kali, the goddess. It's just all these different things just make me dive even deeper. I've taught classes, based on different goddesses, but I've never done Kali, and I can't believe it. But anyway, so I just feel like it's a way for me to get my day rolling that is just a really great, peaceful start.
And I have to tell you that you inspired me to start my own practice. I heard you sharing your story. And so I broke my hand back in January. And so I kind of got out of the physical practice. I was still practicing here and there, but not as routinely as I had been, because there was just this sense of sadness and grief that was coming to my mat and not being able to do what I was used to doing, not being able to get into these shapes that my body loved. And so I kind of avoided it. And so hearing your story inspired me. And so I'm 25 days in. I've committed to, for the month of July, a minimum of 20 minutes a day. And it's just been like, and I have to tell you, July has been one of the busiest months in my recent years. And this practice has been so needed and so grounded. And it's amazing how when something is important to you, you fit it in no matter how busy you are.
Yes. I think that's the key. And, people ask me all the time, how do you do it? You hit the nail on the head. If it's important enough, you'll do it. And, we all have crazy busy lives, and we can find excuses. I mean, we really can. So for me, making that commitment, especially on Facebook, on social media, like, hello, I'm going to do it every day, you kind of have to. Or for me, I shouldn't say you have to. For me, it would be embarrassing to go, oh yeah, I haven't done it for 3 weeks. It's human and it happens. But for me, as who I am, bringing it out there, it's like, you know what, practice what you preach. And when I work with clients, we talk about getting into a routine and doing things and scheduling things. And I know for me, I have my yoga. I have my morning routine, and I meditate right before I get up. I get up, I do my emails and I do my word games to make my brain better. And then, we walk the dogs. And when I get back from walking the dogs, I go up and I do my yoga. And barring something crazy, I do it in that order. But it's like, it's on my schedule. It's what I do every day. And it would be real easy to say, oh, today I'm busy, but I have 15 minutes. And that's why I kind of said to myself, I have to do 15 minutes. An hour is wonderful. But, I look at my day and I schedule my days like from when I get up to when I go to bed. And that sounds crazy and it sounds so regimented, but I get so much more done and I have so much more free time because, I think one of the things we, especially as women, because we're taking care of everybody, everything, we're the end all do all. What happens is, you've got 15 minutes, like, oh, I just finished something and, oh, I've got a Zoom meeting or I've got to do this. Those 15 minutes you totally waste, and it's scrolling through Facebook, it's on Instagram, it's this, it's that, it's doing nothing. And not that you have to be busy every minute of every day, that would be crazy. But in those 15 minutes that you've got to kill, maybe jump to your mat, And I think a lot of times those little intervals, those 20 minutes, half hour, and I'm terrible. If I'm done a Zoom meeting like today, if I'm done at 9 and I don't have anything till 10, I can find a million and one things to not do and just like be a slug for an hour. When in reality, I could go get on my mat for 15, 20 minutes and be like, yeah, nailed my yoga practice, and then go scroll on Instagram or whatever. So for me, it's just making it a priority and kind of scheduling it in. And I find, again, for me, if I do it close to the same time every day, I kind of know what my routine is. So I know after I walk the dogs, it does have to be the minute I get back, but within 10, 15 minutes, I go up to my yoga studio, I do my practice, and I come down and I get on with my day. And it's just really made a tremendous difference. And, it's a physical difference, it's a mental difference, it's an emotional difference. The things that you find out about yourself on the mat, we were kind of talking about that too, this whole Kali thing with anger. And she's this very interesting goddess who, by appearance, looks like she's this like hard, just horrible person. She's holding a skull. She's just all kinds of stuff. She's standing on Shiva. And really, it's that transformation that she's encouraging. And so many emotions that we feel, we think we know what they are. But then when you're doing your yoga practice or you're reading about Kali or another goddess or something like that, you realize that maybe what you thought it was isn't really what it was. And for me, I thought, oh, I don't really have any emotion that I can name. And then all this anger stuff comes up. I'm like, oh gosh, maybe there is some anger in there. And then once you can label it, you can let it go. I'm like, okay, now I know it was anger. It's gone. And, letting go of these things. And, again, if I missed a yoga session, it's not going to be the end of the world. I have to just let it go. But I know for me at this point, I need to do my daily yoga practice. And when I go away for a weekend or a trip, guess what? I have my travel yoga mat. It was funny. I was talking with a doctor that I'm working with, and he said, when you get ready to go on a trip, what's the first thing you pack other than clothes? And I said, my travel mat. He's like, perfect answer. He said, somebody who is committed to whatever their exercise or whatever, that's the first thing they pack. He said, if you're an alcoholic, the first thing you pack is your bottle of booze.
Oh man.
Said, okay, that's my second thing now. But it's interesting because I really do. Now, in the past, I've taken my travel mat and it's not left the suitcase. But my last few trips, it's right there, hauled out, and that's what I do. So, I think when you want it bad enough, it'll happen. And there's nothing wrong with not wanting it bad enough.
No,
You're not
no.
ready. When you're ready, you'll want it bad enough. And when you're not ready, it's not a priority. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no right or wrong to any of this.
No, no. And I love how you say that because it's all about just meeting ourselves where we're at. And for me, that morning practice, that morning routine, not only does it help me to start my day in a more grounded and meaningful way, in a very mindful and intentional way, but it also, like, we make so many decisions throughout the day, and decision fatigue is real. If I have to look at my calendar and say, where am I going to fit in my 20 minutes of yoga or my 15 minutes of yoga or my 10 minutes of yoga? If I have to sit there and think about it and look at it, the time I spend looking at it, I could have already done it. So if I just know, like the same as you, I've developed this routine over time and it's evolved and it will continue to evolve. But I know that I'm going to do my breath work, my gratitude, my meditation, and my yoga, and then I can start my day. But what I love about it, like you were touching on, is that, many of us come to it for the physical practice, but when we get into it, it goes so much deeper than that. It affects us physically, mentally, emotionally, but it ripples out and it affects all of those that we interact with as well, because we're more grounded and we're able to show up with this energy that radiates out into the world around us.
I totally agree with you. I think that since I've been doing this daily, I think that I'm probably a little bit more happy of a person because I am more grounded, and because for me, it's also a little bit of a sense of accomplishment because, I've been doing yoga, as you said, since high school. That's frightening. But, I have to say, since I moved to Harrisonburg 12 years ago, it really started to wane. My practice started to wane, and my teaching style evolved to more what was the norm here versus what the norm was from where I came from. And, I felt like I needed to go with the flow of where I am and what I'm doing. So, my practice really suffered. And I feel like not a different person, but I definitely feel like a better version of myself. And, I think that's what we all want, is to be the best we can be. And, one other thing I want to mention about it, though, is for me, the morning is perfect. And part of it is I like to get things that I'm going to say I need to do, I should say need/want to do, done in the morning so that it doesn't get lost in the day. Because for me, by the time I get up at 5, so by the time 4 o'clock comes around, I'm kind of tired. I don't really feel like getting on my mat unless I'm teaching. And then that's another whole vibe, from teaching. You just like you get this burst of energy. It doesn't matter. But, some people, the thought of doing yoga at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m., they're like, no way. And that's fine. If your afternoons are better because you'd rather sleep or do whatever in the morning, I don't think time matters. And I know some people, when I talk to them, they're like, well, I like to sleep in and I could never do it in the morning. That's fine. Again, you have to make it suit you. And when you're ready and when you want it bad enough, you'll find what time of day. Like I personally don't think like right before you go to bed is the best time, unless you're doing a super gentle, more stretching practice, because for me, it is slightly invigorating. I can kind of tone myself to where I want to go, but because I do it in the morning, I don't mind getting a little jazzed up. But, at night, I don't personally personally do yoga past like 6:30. That's just me. Again, that's what's right for me. You might say, oh, I do my best practice at 6:30. I love it. And I stay up until 10 or 11. But, I'm in bed 9:30, So for me, the morning's great. But I think, anytime you can fit it in, even lunchtime, do a quick practice and then have your lunch. I mean, even people who work, realistically speaking, you probably should take at least a half hour to eat. But if you're me, you don't. I could whip in a 15-minute practice and eat my lunch in 15 or 20 minutes and kind of fit in to a work schedule if I had to. Unfortunately, I'm kind of semi-retired, so I don't really have to think about it. But there's a lot of ways to fit it in. And again, I keep going back to you have to want it. And when you're ready, you'll want it.
Yes, and that's such an important thing to remember that, there's no right, there's no wrong. It fits into your lifestyle wherever you want it to. And I'm with you. I like to do it in the morning as well, because otherwise it's much easier to get lost in the hustle and bustle of the day, or unexpected things come up. The other day, and also having community, the people around you, like you said, you shared on Facebook, that holds you accountable. I told my fiance, I'm doing this every single day for the month of July, and then we'll see what happens. But something unexpected came up the other morning. I had to leave the house earlier than I expected. I missed my morning practice. And so it got to be, it was after dinner. It was almost time for bed. And I was like, I'm doing my yoga. I'm doing my yoga. And he found me on the floor in Shavasana, passed out asleep.
Well, those things happen, Rachel.
I did it. I got my yoga in, but yeah.
When I teach yin, I don't usually do it with them, and because I'm timing and everything. And a couple weeks ago, I said, I'm going to do it with you. I got this new clock that I can see big and has a timer. And I was in the posture, and all of a sudden I looked, I was like, oh my gosh, I wasn't paying attention. And we were like 30 seconds past what I had planned. And I was like, okay, you cannot do it. You have to pay attention. But so, when you get into it, you just do. And, if you fall asleep, who cares? It's not the end of the world. Worse things could happen.
No, exactly. Exactly. It was a very peaceful slumber. So oh man, so you've got a lot of fun things going on. You've got a retreat to Portugal coming up soon. You've got some online yoga. People can connect with you there. Do you want to share a little bit about some of those opportunities?
Sure. I'm really excited about the Portugal trip. I've been thinking about Portugal for several years, and actually my yoga mentor, who has been the leader of all of my yoga trainings, or has owned the company that did all my trainings, she retired to Portugal with her husband.
Really?
Yeah, 2 years ago. And they love it. Capital letters love. And so she's been, saying, oh, you should come. And, it's a very reasonably priced place. It's not gotten caught up with touristy yet or expats or anything. So I had a few companies approach me about leading retreats for them. I've led a yoga retreat to India, and then I led another retreat to India this past fall that was a little bit more cultural. It wasn't really geared towards yoga, as the first one was very geared towards yoga. But anyway, it's June 8th to the 15th. And it's at a beautiful beach resort, and we'll do yoga every morning. Depending, I might do some yoga nidra or whatever in the afternoon. Of course, everything on these trips is optional, but there's a stand-up paddle boarding, there's a sail, there's a easy hike, all kinds of cool stuff. You can find information about it on my website, which is lotusblossom.biz. And there's an early bird discount of $200 until August 15th. And it's about half full. So if you're interested, you might want to make sure you get some, look it up quickly. If you have questions, feel free to ask me. I'm also working on doing an extension for the trip for people who might want to stay a little bit longer. And that would probably not be yoga oriented, more cultural. And this trip is both yoga and cultural. So I'm just really excited about that. And I'll probably do something in India next fall. Just that's a little bit on the horizon yet. So I'm really excited about Portugal. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you don't have to be a yogi. I mean, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and when you teach yoga, as Rachel knows, you teach to who's there, so if I have a lot of beginners, it'll be more beginner oriented. And those of us who've been doing it a long time, and I'm going to say more advanced, whatever that means. You can modify it to what works for you, or vice versa. If it's a little too hard, you can modify it to what works for you, being a little bit easier. So I think it's going to be a fun time. The food is supposed to be great. It's right on the beach. What else do you need, right?
That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. I've heard such amazing things about Portugal, how it's just, like you said, everybody I've heard who's gone there just has loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's everything I've heard is just phenomenal. And I think my most exciting thing is that it's a reasonably priced country.
Yeah.
Like the UK and everything's outrageous or things like that, but it's very reasonable.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
So
awesome.
everybody,
You
yeah.
also teach online yoga classes, right?
Right. I teach Tuesdays from 5:30 to 6:15 via Zoom, and then I do record it. I don't edit the recordings, so it's me and my natural self. And it's $5.50 a class, or it's $8 if you just want to drop in, or I run series, like 8-week series typically, and we're just coming to the end of an 8-week series. I have 2 more weeks, and then I'll start a new one. So I alternate between Hatha Vinyasa and Yin. So 1 week is Hatha Vinyasa and 1 week is Yin. And it's a nice combination. People are really enjoying that because they're totally different, but totally the same. So it's interesting. And then I'm going to also be offering, just as a taster, a 4-week session of somatic yoga.
Ooh.
And it'll be Friday afternoons, 4 to 4:30. It's just a half hour. And somatic yoga, for those who might not know, it's been around since I believe the 70s. And it's kind of known as yoga of the body. So it's just totally free form. So when you're doing a cat cow, you're just kind of doing whatever you want in a cat cow. Or if you're standing, you're almost just like flowing. So it's yoga, but almost combined with like dance, maybe. I mean, it's just a really cool thing, and it's extremely healthy for especially us as women, our lymphatic systems, and for you guys too, for any guys here watching. But it's just got a lot of very interesting science behind it. And so I'm going to offer a taster and see if people like it. And 30 minutes is like a perfect amount of time, because it's really, it's not a super physical practice. It's much more just flowy, easy. I don't know exactly how to explain it. It's one of those things you want to experience. So that'll start. I think it's going to start in August. I'll have those dates on my website within the next couple of days.
Awesome. And I'll link to your website in the show notes so everybody will have access to that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds fun. And so for your 5:30 class, is that 5:30 in the morning or in the evening?
Oh, I'm sorry, 5:30 p.m. So
Yeah.
6:15, 45 minutes. And it's really kind of nice. It was kind of funny. It used to be an hour. And because I'm a morning person, 6:30 seems so late to me. 6:15 doesn't seem late at all. Crazy, and people are liking the 45 minutes. They're getting a nice little yoga practice, but they're also, I think, overall kind of nice that they're done before 6:30 if they eat a later dinner or whatever. So yeah, 45 minutes. And like you said, for this series, it ends up being $5 a class. So it's $40 for 8 weeks, or $8 for a drop-in.
That's awesome. I've heard that as well. I teach a class on Monday mornings, 45 minutes long, and people really seem to enjoy that length because you can get it in, and then I don't know, like you said, 6:15 or 6:30, that 45 minutes or an hour, something about the mindset, it makes it seem like it's so much easier to fit in.
I think it's kind of like, they say if something's $9.99 versus $10, people will buy it at $9.99. Oh no, it's too expensive. And I think it's kind of that mindset. For me, it has to be that, because 15 minutes is not much. But when I think 6:30, I'm like, 6:30. And the crazy part is I have a yoga studio in my house. So when I'm done at 6:30, at 6:32, I can be on with my day, or my evening. So it's not like I've got another 15-minute, 20-minute drive or anything. So yeah, it's funny how our mind works. It's
It really
just
is.
funny, but it is what it is, right?
Yes, it is what it is. Well, I feel like we could go on about this forever, but we'll start to wrap up a little bit. If there's one thing on your heart, one thing that you would like to leave our listeners with today, is there anything that comes up for you?
I think letting go and just taking what the universe gives you and accepting it for what it is, let go of what you wish it was, whatever, and just try to go with whatever is. We can try and try to plan our futures, our destiny, everything. But in my opinion, the universe decides it for us. So just to let go of whatever you need to let go of, and even things you didn't think you need to let go of, just let go and relax into what is happening. Be grateful for what you have and just keep going forward. So I think that's more than like, I guess, one little thing, but that's my philosophy, is just to go with what the universe gives you and be grateful for it.
And that's so powerful.
It's how I've lived especially since my husband passed away. When you don't have an option,
you
go with what you have.
Yeah.
And that was what I had to do, is just go with what I was given and keep moving, because life goes on. No matter what you go through, life continues. No matter what your biggest hurdle or tragedy is, the world does not stop spinning. So either stay on the ride or you're not going to be a very happy person. And we all want joy and happiness. So you just, ride it and roll with it.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being here. And to all of our listeners, make sure you check out www.lotusblossom.biz. I'll link to that in the show notes. Check out Jennifer's retreat to Portugal and her upcoming retreats, her online classes. And I will also link to other ways you can connect with her in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. And thank you again, Jennifer, for being here. I appreciate you so much. Such a fun conversation.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me, and blessings to you for the rest of the day and forever. But thank you so much.